exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Who does the additional non-conference week benefit more? Some trivia? And how about the head coach of the Hellgate Knights football team, the 2-0 Hellgate Knights, Mick Morris? Good afternoon, boys and girls. Hope you are well. It is Tutel and Nuanez on your radios on 102.9 ESPN Radio and across the state on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to have you on board for a Wednesday edition of Tutel and Nuanez, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web if you know how to access it. Ever heard of that thing? What a deal that is. World Wide Web. It's out there, 1029ESPN.com. It's a web page, the web page, I can say centrally located in the middle of the internet. 1029ESPN.com has a bunch of things on it. In particular, you can listen live no matter where you are. If you're on the device, the tablet, the computer, whatever it is, the machine that you're using to access the internet, you can listen live to our show and the station in general, no matter where you are, thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call, you can do that too, 329-1899, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We're going to open up today talking about, here we are in the middle of what is the fourth week of non-conference football in the Big Sky Conference across the FCS. I don't know how many people are aware of exactly the cycle that this is, but there's an additional game this year, 12 games in the college football schedule this year, because there's an additional Saturday prior to Thanksgiving because of the way the calendar falls. So every fifth year you kind of get this anomaly where you get an additional game. That's maybe why you're seeing a lot more FBS jump-up games, especially to Power 5 teams, because there's an additional opportunity to schedule a money game for FCS teams. But for Montana and Montana State, in terms of just the fourth game, which is quote-unquote the additional game, it is a couple of home games against Norfolk State for Montana State and against Monmouth for the University of Montana. So who benefits more from having an additional game to play this week that is before launching into conference football? So we will get into that. We will also have, it is a Wednesday after all, a Wing It Wednesday. Give away wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, the best wings in the city of Missoula. The questions I got for you today revolve around Major League Baseball. We're coming down to it. About 10, 12 games left in the Major League Baseball regular season, and then we will launch into the postseason. And so there are a couple teams that have already clinched, a couple teams on the precipice of 100-win seasons. I want to get into that and maybe a little look back to last year on the World Series. So we'll get into that. It is tonight. Oh, man. Now I'm fired up. You thought you were going to get me in a bad mood? No. Not on this day. Incubus at the amphitheater down there in Bonner, the Kettle House Amphitheater this evening. Coulter's going. I'm going. I'm pumped up about this show. I've been looking forward to singing Incubus for a long time, so this is going to be fun tonight. And I want to talk about, yes, levels of fame, because I was very much discouraged by a conversation I had today with a youngster and his ignorance of this very great band. So we will go through that. We also will have the ESPN Roundtable today. We're shifting this, okay? Normally the ESPN Roundtable, we've had it on Thursdays on this show. We're moving it to Wednesdays, and then Thursday at noon on ESPN Radio, we will re-air it for you. So tomorrow at noon, it will be on for you, but we're going to start it today at about 5:20 or so. We will have it, and it is this week Mick Morris, the head coach of the Hellgate Knight football team. Hellgate 2-0 this season. They are hosting Flathead, Kalispell Flathead, the state runner-up last year, going to be playing Hellgate on Friday in Hellgate's homecoming football game. But Hellgate being 2-0, if you don't know, then you're probably new to the area, is a remarkable thing. It hasn't been that since 1995, the last time Hellgate was 2-0, and they're looking very, very good. They obviously have one of the best players in the state in Raleigh Wooster on their team, but some other good players as well. It's not a one-man show ever in football, and so fun to have the coach on who kind of made that reclamation project go and is turning this team right now into who knows? Very, very high expectations, certainly higher than have been at Hellgate in a very long time. So there you go. That's what we're going to get into today. That is our show Outlook. It is brought to us by Missoula Gutter Cleaning, the safest, most fun, most insured company. Visit MissoulaGutterCleaning.com for an estimate. Coulter is on his way in. He is at practice right now for the Grizz football team, getting a chance to chat with Bobby Houck, talk to him about where he's at midweek hitting into Monmouth, so he'll be in here momentarily. But I wanted to talk about a couple of things with you regarding this week, and particularly from Montana State's perspective, as we have an additional week of football this year, a 12-week or a 12-game regular season schedule as opposed to the normal 11 games, and that does not change at all the conference play, the number of conference games. What they do is they add an extra non-conference game. So you have seen a bunch of teams at the FCS level around the Big Sky Conference playing multiple FBS games rather than just one money game. They're playing maybe two just to get that sort of extra revenue, the extra check. In fact, Bobby Houck himself in the Monday press conference alluded to the fact, what does it mean to have an extra game? He said, it's an extra home game, extra revenue for the program is basically what it is. And a lot of teams are treating that extra game, a lot of programs treating that extra game as a money maker and trying to get that. Montana State, fortunate that can be a home game in which they can make some money as opposed to having to go on the road and play up and probably in a losing situation, perhaps a severely losing situation, in order to get that check written. But nonetheless, an extra game for everybody here. I want to go through that for Montana State this week. Who's benefiting more from that fourth week of non-conference play? Speak of the devil.
Hi.
Welcome back, my friend.
You don't have to call me the devil.
Have I told you about my my Swedish girlfriend in college?
You have.
Well, since I opened that up, I will say it to everybody now. We were speaking about somebody, much like I was speaking about you here, and then that person arrived, much like you arrived here, and she said to me, talking about Satan?
That's classic.
No. The literal translation on that into Swedish and back does not work. It has to be speak of the devil. It cannot be talking about Satan. Sorry, Katerina.
I could take this off the rails so bad right now, but we won't. We'll continue this conversation.
I mean, there's no rails, man. You can do whatever you want.
There is no rails. I always think about how this is somehow our society has evolved to the fact where if you dated somebody in the past, you're married, not to your Swedish girlfriend, to
my Filipino girlfriend.
To your wife. Yes, right. You guys have been married for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You dated this woman before you ever met your wife.
Yeah.
It's all good. People act like it's just a criminal offense if you mention something from your past now. It's as if you were supposed to erase your entire past. It's a very interesting dynamic.
I mean, I got nothing to hide, man.
That's what I'm saying, and that's just normal. It's just life. But now, this day and age, I feel like a lot of times you'd be in hot water if you're mentioning your Swedish girlfriend from some 20 years ago or whatever. Regardless, we digress.
The water's lukewarm and very comfortable in my world, my friend. Coulter, you know what we wanted to talk about here as far as this goes. We touched on this. We did a Big Sky Breakdown podcast today. I thought it was fun, and I think it's very much worth listening to. So you can go to SkylineSportsMT.com and check out that podcast. And we're not going to cover the things that we covered in that here, but I do think that as a matter of topic and discourse for this show, the consideration of who has benefited more by, if we consider the fourth week, and really it could be any of the non-conference weeks as the quote-unquote additional scheduled game, but if you talk about, let's just consider it this fourth week, which is the added week that's in there, And Montana State both having home games, both playing opponents whom they are favored to beat substantially, both 20-plus point favorites against these two teams, and one, Monmouth from the Big South and Norfolk State from the MEAC. I think it's very beneficial for both of these teams in this fourth week, particularly coming off of the games that they came off of. Obviously, a win for Montana State, but a very difficult and ugly one in which there's plenty to clean up, and one that I think in Jeff Choate's mind feels like a game that was sort of it doesn't really fit into the arc of the games. It's sort of an aberrant game on the road, and all of the struggles that took place in terms of the weirdness of the atmosphere, the issues with the television that also translated into issues on the field, the fact that you got to hike however far it is away just for the halftime, you can't make any halftime adjustments, just all kinds of weirdness about playing in Macomb, Illinois. For Montana, coming off what people felt was a respectable performance, as certainly it was a respectable performance, but also at the end of the day, a dominating loss of 35-3 to the Oregon Ducks, and a chance to sort of get back into, you would think the mode of winning and the feeling, of going out, getting a week of work and playing a team that you think you're probably better than and going to be able to deal with and have that kind of be your launch point into the conference season. I have a very strong feeling about who I think benefits more from this additional week this particular season and the arc of where they're at as a team, but I'd be interested to know, first of all, do you think one of these teams is more benefited from this fourth week of non-conference football, and if so, who is it and why?
Well, I think it's the Cats for one reason and one reason alone, because of Casey Bauman. Casey Bauman had to get thrown into the fire against Texas Tech. That's uphill sledding no matter what, no matter how he could have performed. He honestly probably couldn't have performed much better than he did at Texas Tech. Only sacked once, didn't throw a pick, threw a touchdown. For your first start in front of 60,000 plus, that's pretty good. He's been pretty middle of the road the last couple weeks. In the Gold Rush game, he was inconsequential because Montana State just rode the momentum of their dynamic playmakers. They showed their diversity on offense. It was sort of the only glimpse we've gotten so far this season of all the weapons they can have when they run some of this unorthodox stuff. And then last week against Western Illinois, the perils of the trip, like you mentioned, and all these other different factors. To me, like we talked about on the Big Sky Breakdown, there's bad quarterback play, there's unprepared and nervous quarterback play, and then there's just poor quarterback operation. And Casey Bauman's the last of those three. He's not sitting there melting down like a lot of young quarterbacks do. He's not sitting there short-circuiting. He's making the right read almost all the time. The reads are simple. As Jeff Choate said in his press conference earlier this week, it's just too high, one high safety, where are we at? 1, 2, 3, hit him, that's it. He's just not throwing the ball. The actual operation of the ball, he's either sometimes he's just high, sometimes he's low. Jeff Choate says he thinks he's squeezing it too hard, whatever it might be. But the arc of last season was so fascinating because Troy Anderson broke his hand in the first game of the year. Then he didn't play quarterback against
South Dakota
State or Wagner. Tucker Rovig had his coming out party against Wagner. He looked lights out. He looked dynamite. They were running all sorts of RPO stuff. They were throwing the ball over the top. Tucker Rovig threw for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the main reason they went back to Troy Anderson the next week is because they were playing on the road at Portland State. And Portland State runs that funky flex defense. And as we saw in Missoula last year, if they get ahead of you, it can confuse even really good quarterbacks like Dalton Snead, let alone a guy who's only on his second career start like Tucker Rovig. So they went back to Troy Anderson to run this sort of pseudo version of the wing T. And then the following week, they play Eastern Washington, and I think they just didn't want to throw Tucker Rovig to the Wolves against the number 3 team in the country. But the whole plan internally then was to have Tucker Rovig start the Idaho game. Well, they had a bye right before the Idaho game. Tucker Rovig gets stepped on, breaks his foot, season over. Okay, now we're rolling with Troy Anderson the whole rest of the year. They had to audible internally and go away from the plan that they had originally planned on. But that this table setter for Tucker Rovig maybe getting the starting job was the Wagner game. To me, this Norfolk State game could be that table setter for Casey Bauman. If he could just, when he has mismatches, which Montana State will have mismatches across the board, now maybe if he can just make those easy throws, then he can get into a rhythm, which is something that has not been I haven't seen Casey Bauman get in the rhythm yet, not in spring ball, not in fall camp. And a lot of that is the fact that they are playing 3 or 4 different guys at quarterback, wildcat quarterback or option quarterback or whatever you want to call it. He hasn't been in for 60 consecutive offensive plays ever, but in this game, maybe they can get him going a little bit. What do you think?
100% not close. It's the Cats. And it's for 2 reasons. The first reason you just enumerated for us perfectly. Casey Bauman gets another start against a team that you should be able to move the ball against, and you would like to think that, first of all, he can get some, he's going to get more reps. Maybe you work a little bit more of the passing game into the game plan on the presumption that you're going to be able to be more effective that way. You build his confidence, hopefully, and you just build his experience. I mean, experience is really hard to come by in football. When you only play 11 or, in this instance, 12 regular season games a year, I mean, the idea that you would have 30 starts under your belt is a huge number in college football. That's a ton of experience. It's still not that many games. I mean, they play that many games in April in baseball, right? It's a month worth of baseball. It's 3 seasons worth of football. So just every chance you get to be on the field and in a game where you are the favorite across the board, and you have such a good defense and, a solid running game and all of that, that is huge. The other reason, though, and this is really, really big to me, this is as big as Casey Bauman, and that is that Montana State's a little bit banged up. Yep. And Troy Anderson, rolled his ankle. He still played, but played sparingly in the last 2.5 quarters of the Western Illinois game. Isaiah Ifanse has been out for 2 games now, or a game and a half, basically. Yep. And we still haven't seen Munchie Filer play for Montana State. So they need to get back and get healthy and get ready to roll for the Big Sky Conference season. And first of all, this is not a bye week. Okay, let's be very clear about that. And nobody's approaching it in that way. You'd be foolish to do that, and no coach would ever certainly admit to that. That said, you hope that you can get some reps for some younger guys and some rest and or hold a guy out. Maybe Troy Anderson, if it was UC Davis as the opponent, would be on the field. Maybe with Norfolk State being there, maybe he doesn't play. I don't know, but I think that is a critical part for Montana State. The Grizzlies, they've just been very fortunate. They had, obviously the one terrible injury to Gavin Crow, on a special teams play, but their starters, both directions, are basically intact and physically ready to roll. So, Dalton Sneed, we have some questions about his shoulder and stuff, but looked pretty good, against Oregon, and so they are ready. I do think it benefits both of these schools in the following respect. Some schools have to play programs as a matter of financial necessity. It's hard to know how much better you are going to get. I mean, you're always going to get better over the course, you think, right? You expect over the course of a week of practice. And okay, even playing a really good team, stepping up to a top 25 team in the nation, whatever it is. But I think that this is an opportunity, while they will not speak of it in terms of a tune-up, to be tuned up, to sharpen the edge of the razor, as it were, and get yourself completely ready to go and dialed in and get all your calls right and get everybody in the right spots and have more reps and an opportunity just to coalesce further as a team, as a unit, in all of these different ways. For Montana, maybe it's that offensive line. They have been moving guys in and out of that thing. Bobby Hauck alluded to the fact that they're going to continue as the season progresses to select the unit that they think has performed the best in practice that week and coming out of the game the week prior, and that they're going to be the unit to start. But we've already seen, as many as 9 offensive linemen playing in a football game, not as a result of injuries, but as a result of just trying out different combinations and all that kind of thing. So I think that's, an opportunity to get more evaluation and perhaps further solidify that, because that is one thing. The competition at every position is one thing, but also at some stage, right, Coulter, you want to have an offensive line that's a cohesive unit with 5 guys that are working in tandem together. Hard to do when you're kind of plug and playing guys depending on, the opposition or just how a particular guy is playing on a particular afternoon.
This is also a chance to close a chapter within the season and a chance to finish a portion of your season with about as good of a finish in terms of the one stat that truly matters, wins and losses, as you could have imagined. I think that best case scenario for Montana and Montana State was that they were going to be 3-1 going into Big Sky Conference play.
That's right. That also, though, bears this in mind. There's always a chance. I mean, we talked to Latrell Scott, who we'll hear from tomorrow, Norfolk State head coach. There's athletes for days coming out of Norfolk, Virginia, and that entire region of the country. Okay, Monmouth, outstanding, all American level running game, an all conference preseason quarterback. There's some players that are coming both to Bozeman and to Missoula this weekend, and I don't think the coaches are sleeping on any of these teams. I don't think that the players, therefore, are sleeping on any of these teams. But there is always a chance for an upset. There's always an opportunity that maybe you're not even asleep at the wheel. Maybe you just get a bad matchup. Maybe a team gets some momentum and gets going, and then it all of a sudden you're in a dogfight that you didn't ask for. In the event that either of these teams beat Montana or Montana State, it would be a disaster for whichever school or schools that happened to. I mean, that would be cause for major consternation in either Bozeman or Missoula if that was to happen heading into the conference play. That said, don't expect that that's going to happen. And if both these teams are 3-1 heading into heading into conference play, you're right. It's as good as you could have possibly expected with Texas Tech and Oregon being on the docket.
I do think that, like you just said, it would be a major upset on either side. I do think that both teams have to be on strong upset alerts.
For sure.
Because when this game was put on the schedule for the Grizzlies against Monmouth was nowhere close to what they are now. They were not a fully funded program.
33 scholarships.
They have I think they have close to 60 now. They almost have the full allotment of 63. I think Coach Callahan said yesterday that they're almost to the full 63. So they're in the high 50s, low 60s. Which is not that discernible of a difference. Having 30 more scholarships, though, is a bigger difference than the FCS playing the FBS. So when they only had 30 scholarships when they're playing Montana State, severe disadvantage. They're in a real conference now. They're in a playoff-eligible conference. They made the playoffs 2 years ago. This team's won 17 games the last 2 years. They went 9-3 and 8-3. They were the first team out of the playoffs last year. They were the outside looking.
Right, they're the 25th team.
They were like 26th, basically, is what they finished in the poll. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it basically just came down to, are they going to take two teams from the Big South, and they ended up just taking Stony Brook, and who then in turn lost to Southeast Missouri State, who went on to play Weber. But the Monmouth's no pushover. They're going to have players that are really good players. I mean, Pete Guerrero is going to be one of the best players on the field.
Yeah.
Monmouth's running back. And on the other side of this, on the other side of the Continental Divide, you have a Norfolk State team that only lost by 3 to Old Dominion. Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech a year ago. Old Dominion is a team that was in the FCS and then rapidly accelerated because of a bunch of resource increases and went to the FBS. Now, that game does come with a caveat because Norfolk State and Old Dominion are bitter rivals. They've just gone on different trajectories as programs. I don't think they're actually in the same town in terms of the actual, what it's called.
The delineation, yeah.
But they're like 4 miles apart. I mean, they're as close as two schools could be. So this is a fierce rivalry game where you have generations of people that have disdain for the other side, even if they're not even close to in the same realm. So there may be a little bit of an upset-minded Norfolk State team there. But that said, you just can't underestimate anybody, especially when you're talking about teams that recruit from areas like that.
No.
The athletes are going to be good. I mean, look at Nigel Chavis, the middle linebacker for Norfolk State. I mean, he looks all day like, I mean, just pictures. I've never seen the guy play. Looking at the pictures, he could play anywhere.
He hasn't missed many weightlifting sessions. That is a fact.
Like Latrell Scott told us,
right.
we'll hear from him later, but he played every single snap, 90 defensive snaps last week.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll be doing a Wing It Wednesday here in just under 10 minutes from now, so get your phones ready. Old Dominion, Coulter, are they tied to the trucking company? The Old Dominion, I've seen this Old Dominion trucking lines, and now they're the official trucking of Major League Baseball. It's a big deal.
No, I do not think they're tied to the trucking company, nor are they tied to
What is Old Dominion? Dominion of what?
I don't know. There's also a country band called Old Dominion as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, but
I thought you said contraband.
There actually is some crossover.
I mean, is it religious?
I should know more about
like
this.
it.
I should know more about this because when Blaine Taylor left the University of Montana,
Right,
he went to Old Dominion,
yes.
and Travis DeCure coached at Old Dominion as well.
Well, we should ask Travis next time we see him. Travis, okay, yeah, we want to hear about the new recruits. We want to know how the offseason went. But truly, what's going on at Old Dominion? What's that about? Where's the trucking money coming from?
Well, the largest universities in Virginia with an enrollment of almost 25,000 students.
That's big.
252-acre campus. They're classified as a doctoral university with high research activity, so they're a high research Carnegie institution. They have an endowment of over $250 million.
None of this is answering any of my questions.
It's a prestigious deal.
We need to dig in. We can't do Wikipedia on this. We need to sick the dogs on this one. You know what I mean? We got to get some.
The Old Dominion University derives its name from one of Virginia's state nicknames, the Old Dominion, given to the state by King Charles II of England for remaining loyal to the crown during the English Civil War.
Wouldn't it be New Dominion? It's Tutel Nuanez, 1029 ESPN Radio. Give us a call, 329-1899. Got some trivia questions for you. They're about Major League Baseball, if you're into baseball, or if you're just into wings from the Desperado Sports Tavern. 329-1899 is the phone number that you want to call. We'll get those going right after this. Coulter, it's starting to get a little chilly out, starting to get a little rainy out. You need your gutters to be clear so that the rain and the runoff and the melted snow, when it happens, gets out of there cleanly. You don't have issues. You're not puddling up around your house. You're not ruining your siding, your plants, and so on. But if your gutters are jammed up with muck, you're in bad shape. And you know what? You and I are also in just generally bad shape, which means us on a ladder cleaning out the gutters is just not an option.
Speak for yourself.
100%, you're the last person on earth that should be up the ladder.
Oh, no, I'm not disputing this.
Okay.
I'm just talking about...
You are in better shape than I am. But nonetheless, neither of us need to be getting above the 6-inch mark.
No. Me and ladders, bad news.
Call Missoula Gutter Cleaning. Go online to MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Grab your phone and tell it to go to MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Get an estimate right now, okay? They're going to take care of the gutters. You're going to get all your time back. How about this? Don't clean your gutters. Go to the Grizz game. Go to the Cat game. Do something with your children. Take your wife out on a date. Whatever it is, you're getting all of your time back because Missoula Gutter Cleaning, who is insured and licensed and bonded and skilled, is going to do the job, the reckless job, and the thankless job of cleaning the gutters for you. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. You go there now, you get an estimate, and they're going to give you a $20 gift card, to your favorite brewery or coffee shop when the job is done. Just like that. You're getting a present back for the gutter cleaning service. How about that? MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Save yourself the hassle, the worry, the strife, and the pain. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget, with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
The biggest reason fall is the Desperados' favorite season of all, the return of those wonderfully spirited UM students, of course. Okay. So football is the real reason the Desperado gets pumped about fall, but you can't have college ball without college, right? So this season, the Desperado is bringing the best of both worlds together with live broadcast of Montana college football and all your favorite college football teams, along with Missoula's best hot wings and coldest beer. Fall has arrived, and there's more than one reason to celebrate at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
With football dominating the news, a pair of in-state female college standouts earned weekly awards from the Big Sky Conference earlier this week. Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports for you. Montana soccer outside back Mackenzie Kilpatrick scored Montana's lone goal in a 1-0 victory over Cal Poly in the 80th minute over the weekend. Kilpatrick's first college goal lifted the Grizzlies to their first win this season. Kilpatrick, a sophomore, led an effort that ended in a 1-1 tie at Wyoming. The Cowgirls scored on a penalty kick in the 90th minute to forge UM's third tie of the season. Montana is at San Francisco Friday before wrapping up the non-conference slate at St. Mary's on Sunday.
The Montana State volleyball team earned 2 victories at the Montana Farmers State Bank Invitational in Missoula over the weekend, led by senior outside hitter Evie Wilson. The Vancouver-Washington product led the Bobcats to a sweep of UTEP and a 4-set victory over Cal State Bakersfield to earn Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week honors. Wilson posted 25 kills and hit a ridiculous .358 for the weekend. MSU, which is on its 3-match winning streak, opens its 2019 home schedule on Thursday against Seattle U.
And finally, former Montana and Montana State football coach Ty Gregorak will make his broadcasting debut Saturday for Root Sports. After spending 12 seasons as an assistant for the Grizz and 3 more for the Cats, Gregorak will perform as an analyst for Eastern Washington, Idaho.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
There's a place off Ocean Avenue where I used to sit and talk with you. We were both 16 and it felt so right. Sleeping all day, staying up all night. Staying up all
You ready for a Wing It Wednesday? I mean, how could you not be, right? It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. What are you grinning about? Yellow card?
Yeah. Some of the debates we've had on this show. First of all, I can't even believe that they exist.
The debates or the band?
No, the debates, like when you proclaim that Yellow Card is way better than Fall Out Boy.
Not close.
You're right, it's not close.
We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com, and on Twitter, at Gus Tutel, that's me, at 1029ESPN, that's the station, and at Skyline Sports MT, that is Coulter. Let's go to the phones, do some trivia. We welcome Tom to the show. Tom, how you doing? Tom, do we have you there? How you doing? He might be able to hear us. Maybe you can hear him. I don't hear him. Coulter, how about you?
I did not hear him either, but I know he's there. He was talking when I was just back in the studio.
Is that right? Well, we'll see if we can.
Maybe we'll get the right button here.
We'll see. We'll see if we can work it out here in just a minute. Here's the thing, Coulter. You and I, though, are both on the same page when it comes to Incubus, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, right? Because, I mean, Incubus, we're going to the show tonight. I'm pumped up about this.
You know, you realize about certain things in your life at certain ages, right? You start following sports and you start picking who your teams are going to be and stuff when you're like, I don't know, 7, 8. It's kind of when you're at the impressionable age. You start. I don't know if it's really still I don't know if it's really still as paramount this day and age with just the such a crazy way to consume music. Like all music is at your disposal at all times now with electronic music, right? So I don't know if it's the same. Like it was a rite of passage when you're a kid to start buying CDs.
Yes, it
and
was.
then when the parental advisory sticker came out, if you wanted to get a CD that had a parental advisory, you're either having to sneak around at Sam Goody or like ask your older neighbor to.
What are you doing, Coulter? Why are you listening to such rubbish?
I remember in 6th grade, I wanted the Korn CD so bad, so I went and asked my neighbor, who was 6 years older than me, to buy it for me.
Good choice.
And I double dipped. I got Dr. Dre 2001 and Korn, both parental advisory, living on the edge.
Yes.
What I'm saying though is that I remember the. Well, first of all, your brother and I have known each other since my first day in Missoula. He was my very first friend.
5 years old.
He's my very first friend. Miss Wallace's
Josh is on the line.
Miss Wallace's kindergarten class walks right up to me. So we shared music more than any other thing in our lives. We were in band together all through middle school and high school, and we've just consumed so much music together. He showed me Incubus, which he borrowed from your collection, the Science album that came out in 96 when I think I was 9. I think we were in 4th, 5th grade. And then I remember in our art class, we used to be able to make mixtapes, and we used to make Incubus mixtapes, and we would bleep out any of the expletives of all the music that Austin Tutel and I have shared in our lives. We have a lot of crossovers. We have a lot of crossovers, a lot of mutually liked bands, a lot of battles, like you and I both have a lot of mutually liked and a lot of battles. The number one place where the Venn diagram meets in perfection is Incubus.
Oh, this is glorious.
And that's just your influence on my life before you even knew it.
And all three of us. It's all coming together tonight. All right, we'll talk about this some more. Let's go back to the phones. Let's try this again. This time, Josh on with us. Josh, you there? How you doing?
Hello?
Hey, Josh. How are you?
There you are. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody put me on hold, and I couldn't hear you guys.
Okay, well, you're not on hold anymore, my friend. You are live and ready to rock and roll. Are you going to do some trivia with you? Are you ready for this? Do you like baseball, Josh?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to watch it much lately, but yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, here's the deal. We're going to ask you 3 questions. Mine today are MLB themed. I was told by my a friend and boss, Coulter, that I needed to start theming my trivia questions. So it's MLB today. You're going to get 3 questions. If you get 2 of them, you get yourself wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. If you get all 3, you're going to get yourself a shirt as well. If you need help on any of these, Coulter is your lifeline, okay?
All right.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. Tummy likey. Tummy want wingy.
All right, Josh, here we go. Question number 1. There are only 2 teams as of right now who have clinched a postseason berth. They're both National League teams. Name one of them. One team that is one of the 2 teams to have clinched a postseason berth this season out of the National League.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Dodgers have, because I know the rest of that division is kind of a dumpster fire.
The Dodgers are correct. Very well done, Josh. Very well done. Do you know the other? Well, first of all, Josh, do you know the other? Do you have a guess the other team that is clinched?
Well, I'm thinking it might be the Braves. I'm a Cubs fan, and I know the Central's tight, so probably the Braves.
Coulter, what do you think? Are you with him on this?
I don't know. I would have guessed the Braves, I believe. Yeah, because I know the Central. Robert Chase gave me the whole breakdown. The Cubs and the Cardinals still have to play 7 more games.
Last night, couldn't get it. Yep. Needed to pick up a game. It is the Braves. You're both absolutely right. Very well done, Josh. I can't give you anything for it. It wasn't. You already got the question right, but it is the Braves. So very well done. Okay, here's the irony. 2 teams in the NL have clinched, but nobody in the NL has won 99 games. 2 teams in the AL, however, have both won 99 games, are on the verge of winning 100 games in the season. I want both of them. Who are the 2 American League teams that have 99 wins thus far this year?
I actually just heard this yesterday. Yankees and Astros have both, not yesterday, this morning I think I heard that. Yankees and Astros have both done that.
Give this man his wings.
Yeah.
And you what? Finish your sentence. I cut you off.
Well, I I used to kind of hate the Astros because they used to be in the Central with the Cubs, so I'm all right with them, but I can't stand the Yankees.
Okay. I Did you hear the cackle of hatred that the judge? Very good. We appreciate your perspective on this as a fan, and you're 100% right. And you got wings from the Desperado. Excellently done by you there, Josh. So here we go. Question number 3. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's very simple, but sometimes these are the hardest ones. Who played in the World Series last year?
Say that again.
Who played in the World Series last year? You do have a lifeline.
Yeah. Astros. Oh, gosh. Let me think here. I want to say Astros Dodgers, but I'll use my lifeline in case I'm wrong.
Coulter is holding his face in total perplexion.
This is the thing.
Over here?
It makes I'm trying to migrate my podcast onto our new podcast thing. Regardless, I'm so
glad you're focused.
No, I am focused. I can listen and do tasks simultaneously. It's why I'm not good at the tasks, because I'm busy listening. This is so funny because I think to myself about this all the time. I can tell you played the 97 World Series off the top of my head like that. 2004, boom. Last year, no clue. I blank out. But when he said...
Well, that's where I'm at. Like, it's crazy how, like, some of the weirdest stats I can remember, and then I can't even remember who the hell was in the Super Bowl this year.
You know, are you married, Josh, by chance?
I am.
I have been many times.
And she's hot.
Congratulations. Very well done. But I have flabbergasted my wife on many occasions on the things I couldn't remember, like, I don't know, picking the children up. But the things I could remember, like, I have a fantasy draft, you know?
I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten my kids at school. Yeah.
So I'm with you on this.
Okay, I got it, though, because Josh was almost right. The Dodgers I knew was the National League champion.
The Dodgers did play. Yes, and it was not the Astros.
This is just a process of deduction. I knew it wasn't the Astros because the Astros won the World Series 2 years ago.
Right.
And then I was thinking of my baseball friends, namely Tucker Sargent and Riley Corcoran.
Yes.
And I remember the joy of Tucker Sargent when the Boston Red Sox defeated the Los Angeles Dodgers. Last year's World Series was so lackluster because the Red Sox just dominated.
Everybody. They lost one game, I think, in every post-game series. One and only one game, and they just steamrolled everybody. Josh,
I think the reason I was thinking the Astros is because my buddy has not quit giving me crap about it for 2 years, so I keep thinking it's the last one I saw.
The ones that you hate when they win, they're the ones that always come back to haunt you, aren't they?
I know.
That's what it is. Hey, Josh, excellent work. You got all 3 with your lifeline. Give your information to the producer in the back, and we're going to get you set up with the wings and the shirt. All right, my man?
Sounds good, guys. I appreciate it.
Very well done. That's how you do it. We'll have another one coming up at the top of the hour. So stick around for that, and we will get to a Wing It Wednesday then. Coulter, that was enjoyable. Yes. So now here's the question. Who did Houston beat? Was it the Dodgers again? Haven't the Dodgers been in like 3 straight World Series? 2?
Is that right?
2 straight at least, right? Because it was Cleveland, Chicago in the 2016 series.
Yeah,
the Cubs.
Remember that one well.
I will never forget that one. Then it was the Astros in 2017, and I think they played the Dodgers, and then I think the Dodgers also went again last year and lost again. So it's been the deal.
I still cannot reconcile myself with the fact that the Astros are in the American League West. Every time I think of the Astros, I'm like, oh, they must be battling it out in the NL Central. Nope, they're not. They're in the AL West. I can't. They've been in the AL West for a long time now.
A long time.
I can't get it in my head.
Well, sorry, man. Quick break. We'll come back. We will finish our conversation about the most important event in this city tonight. The conglomeration of Austin Coulter and myself at Incubus.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his Touch of Magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump. Ooh, pump it up. Pump it up.
Burning the candle at both ends? Stop by Town Pump. They've got the energy you need. Right now, Red Bull 8.4 ounces are only $3 for $5. Plus, pick up Hum Kombucha for only $2.99. Town Pump, serving our community since 1953.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Soft Landing Missoula, along with sponsors Imagination Brewing Company and Sweet Peaks Ice Cream, is hosting Missoula's third annual Welcoming Week. In tandem with thousands of other organizations and communities nationwide, Soft Landing hopes to inspire and celebrate welcoming all people to the Missoula community. Highlights of this year's week will include an Eritrean coffee ceremony, an international soccer match, and a Middle Eastern dessert pop-up sale. For more info and a full calendar of events, please visit softlandingmissoula.org.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Welcome back. It is Tutel and Nuanez. It is 102.9 ESPN Radio. It is SWX Montana Television. Ooh. It's a great dance move right there. I'm looking forward to more of those this evening. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coulter, we went to Gary Clark Jr. Together 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yep.
And it was as consistent a rain as you get in Western Montana, which you don't get very often, but we were soaked to the skin. And it is looking ominous out there for Incubus tonight. I mean, my goodness.
Mumford & Sons, Gary Clark Jr., Incubus. Pouring rain. Now, don't we live in a high desert?
You know, it's not a desert. It's the step below desert. We get just enough rain. It's like alpine arid or something like that. But in any case, not today. Today it's just a tropical storm. Now, in theory, I've been studying the hourly weatherly forecast here, and it is going to we're at like 99% precipitation, like likelihood or whatever right now, which I don't know how it's only at 99% when it is in fact raining. But then it's supposed to drop off, and at like 7 p.m., 60%, and then by 9 o'clock, which is my guess about showtime, 30% chance, it says, of rain. That feels to me right now like 100%. Like I am going to wrap a tarp. Here's my thing. I don't own a rain. Do you own a raincoat?
I do. Multiple. You want one?
I mean, I'm not surprised, but I was about to, who owns an actual raincoat? Coulter Nuanez, many of them.
Yes.
How? Why?
I don't know, because I own multiple of everything. That's why I'm poor.
I was thinking about doing bungee cording a tarp to myself.
Okay.
Kind of a makeshift raincoat. Because when I was not cold at Gary Clark, but I was soaking wet. Soaking wet. And, it's going around right now, people dropping like flies with this cold or whatever it is, people hitting the deck. I don't want to just even mess with that. You know what I mean? But there's no chance I'm not going to. I haven't seen Incubus. They've been a favorite band of mine for a long time, and I'm very much looking forward to the show. Make yourself 20 years in the making is what this is. So it's not just the record, or I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but 20 years that thing's been out there. That was a long time. Pardon me and Privilege, great record, the whole thing, all the way. I know everybody would drive and all that, but I like the whole thing. Anyway, I'm definitely into this, and I'm hoping to keep myself warm with just some cardiovascular exertion over the evening. You know what I mean? I know that the days of the mosh pit have basically bygone, and Incubus in general, anyway, they went from like a very pretty high energy rock sort of sound to a little more melodic over the course of time. So I'm not anticipating too much, but I would like on one occasion just to run you over. That would be that.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, good luck, buddy.
You don't think I could do it?
I'm going to probably wear my Morels with my Yak tracks on them, so good luck.
Really anchor down, huh?
Oh, yeah.
By the way, worth noting, since we're talking about the Incubus show here, our good friend Justin Angle, a New Angle podcast, his weekly podcast released just earlier today or maybe yesterday, and the feature of that is Nick Chakota, who is the proprietor of Logjam Presents, the promotions company that's bringing a lot of these bands in, obviously the venue at the Kettle House, Top at Wilma, etc. But it's certainly worth listening to. I've listened to it earlier today, and it was enjoyable, interesting, and pertinent when you talk about being a community member in Missoula and all the different, music. And there's been, I know at Big Sky Brewery, and they've got, they bring a lot of bands in there as well. Been to see several of those too. So Missoula has really increased significantly in terms of the live music that is going on, and I'm very happy about it. It's enjoyable to have the opportunity to go on a Wednesday night and see Incubus in the middle of September.
For those that aren't familiar with Incubus, which I feel like more people than I expected are unfamiliar with Incubus.
I talked to this child today, this 20-year-old child who believed Incubus to be an app.
This refortifies my argument of how many people actually know who people like Macklemore and Billie Eilish are. Here nor there. If you don't know who Incubus is, you don't know who Macklemore is.
Now, that's not true.
Sure, because it's more pertinent, because it's more modern, but I just think that they're equally as off the beaten path for our listenership. Regardless, I'm very fascinated to see Incubus live and in concert, because anybody that's familiar with Brandon Boyd's singing style, he has a good voice, but he uses his microphone in a very specific way that's unlike almost anybody in music. It's an instrument. The way he turns the mic in and out and all around, it's part of his style, and it's why they sound so unique. I just want to know how it translates live, because to me it's broad. It could be great, it could be not. I'm not sure.
No, it's going to be great. It's going to be
the
great.
experience is going to be great.
It's going to be great, and you and I and Austin are going to take a step way back to 1999, right? All right. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming at you straight ahead. What are you grinning about, Coulter?
Feedback from some fans. They don't know who Incubus is either.
I know exactly what fans are texting you that they don't know what Incubus is. And just stop. Just enough.
Incubus is they occupy a very specific place in music, though. Because I feel like there's no casual Incubus fans, because Incubus has had probably 40 hit singles and never a huge hit except Drive. Drive is the only crossover mainstream hit that made it to like pop radio. You know what I mean? They were on the alternative rock radio stations forever, and they had so many. Remember the Billboard music? I don't know if they still do. They used to have a chart called the Heat Seeker chart, and it's for alternative music. It's where the Foo Fighters first broke in before they crossed over, and bands along these lines, alternative bands, true 90s, 2000s alternative bands. So Incubus is certainly very popular in that sector, but they haven't crossed over. They've sold tens of millions of records, but they don't have that smash hit appeal, which is, I think, why we like them, because they have stayed true to themselves. At least their last album was off the beaten path for them. It was a lot different. But they do the rock ballad as good as anybody, while also they have a lot of punk influences and a lot of thrash influences within their alternative music. And that's the thing I could say about Incubus. If people ask me, like so many people that I was talking to this about that didn't know who they were, they asked me, what are your favorite Incubus songs? And I realized that I only probably know the names of about 10 Incubus songs, but I own every single album. I could tell you every album. I could tell you what number the track is of the song that I like. Right. I just don't know what it's specifically called because they're such an album band.
They did find a new they found their own sound too over time, which was sort of like a new age ether rock, and it's not really like you said, it's not necessarily going to be a pop or even a standard rock sort of genre. And so that's right. I mean, they're not a band that became they're very well known, very popular, and they're still putting out new material. They're still an active band. They're not just touring on their old stuff or whatever, but they did not have the widespread pop thing happen to them that did to so many. And you're right, that's part of the appeal.
And it's also part of the reason they lasted.
That's right. Okay. See you there. It's Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. Come back. Hour number 2. We're going to do a Wing It Wednesday at the top right here because Coulter is going to go back down. Are you going back down to practice and talk to the kids? And then we're going to have Mick Morris, the head coach of the Hellgate Knights, on their ESPN Roundtable. So stick around and do a Wing It Wednesday, 329-1899. Coulter, what are your questions about here?
To be determined.
Oh, okay. All right. 329-1899. Wings to the Desperado coming up right after this. Hey, I want to tell you, okay, October the 10th, it's a Thursday evening from 6 to 9:30, there is going to be a live tennis auction. That's right. What are we auctioning off? Not tennis balls, not tennis rackets, tennis players. In fact, pro tennis players. At the Barn on Mullen. It is a fundraiser for the Watson's Children's Shelter. The Watson Children's Shelter having their tennis pro-am on the weekend of the 10th through the 13th. It starts off on the Thursday evening from 6 to 9:30 with the auction where you can go get a pro tennis player to play with you in the tennis pro-am and then compete over the course of a weekend. You're going to have breakfast, a full breakfast bar Saturday, Sunday, lunch on Saturday, a tour of the Watson Children's Shelter, plenty of refreshments and snacks, a VIP evening that is hosted on Saturday night that you get to meet all the pros that are going to be there. And guess what? On Thursday at the auction, I'm very excited to be the MC. I'm going to be down there with all of you, auctioning off the tennis players. We're going to make a lot of money for the Watson Children's Shelter that does such great work in this community, attending to and helping the needs of some of the kids in the toughest straits, the most marginalized and abused kids that just need a place to be that is safe, that is caring. Watson Children's Shelter is that. So we're going to be down there again, October the 10th, Thursday, October the 10th. Put it on your calendar. It's a full weekend. This is a fun night and a really fun weekend. Come down. You can also do the silent auction. So go on and check that out. Tickets and info available at watsonchildrensshelter.org. Watson, no S on the Watson, watsonchildrensshelter.org. Go down there. Check that out online. Get your tickets now and come hang out with me on October the 10th at the auction this year.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
The Polaris factory authorized clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris factory authorized clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles. To be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 9/30/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Soft Landing Missoula, along with sponsors Imagination Brewing Company and Sweet Peaks Ice Cream, is hosting Missoula's 3rd annual Welcoming Week. In tandem with thousands of other organizations and communities nationwide, Soft Landing hopes to inspire and celebrate welcoming all people to the Missoula community. Highlights of this year's week will include an Eritrean coffee ceremony, an international soccer match, and a Middle Eastern dessert pop-up sale. For more info and a full calendar of events, please visit softlandingmissoula.org.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for being with us. Here's some sports news with football dominating the news of the last week. Well, last month, really. It was a pair of in-state female college standouts that earned weekly awards from the Big Sky Conference. Montana soccer outside back Mackenzie Kilpatrick scored Montana's lone goal in a 1-0 victory over Cal Poly in the 80th minute this weekend. Kilpatrick's first college goal lifted the Grizzlies to their first win this season. Kilpatrick, a sophomore, also led an effort that ended in a 1-1 tie at Wyoming. The Cowgirls scored on a penalty kick in the 90th minute to forge UM's third tie of the season. Montana is at San Francisco on Friday before wrapping up the non-conference at St. Mary's on Sunday.
The Montana State volleyball team earned 2 victories at the Montana Farmers State Bank Invite in Missoula over the weekend, led by senior outside hitter Evie Wilson. The Vancouver Washington product led the Bobcats to a sweep of UTEP and a 4-set victory over Cal State Bakersfield to earn Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week honors. Wilson posted 25 kills and hit .358 for the weekend. MSU, which is on a 3-match winning streak, opens its 2019 home schedule on Thursday against Seattle U.
Former Montana and Montana State football coach Ty Gregorek will make his broadcasting debut Saturday for Root Sports. After spending 12 seasons as an assistant for the Grizz and 3 more at Montana State, he will perform as the analyst for Eastern Washington and Idaho.
ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
You want some wings? Of course you do. They're the best wings in the city, the Desperado Sports Tavern. So give us a call, 329-1899. 329-1899. I'm going to do a Wing It Wednesday with Colter right now. We'll get in here and we'll do that, and then we'll get into the ESPN Roundtable. So 329-1899, the phone number. It is Tutel Nuanez. It is 102.9 ESPN Radio and SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you on this Wednesday afternoon. A little drizzly, but all I see is sunshine because we're going to the live show. Okay? That's right. All right. I've said enough. If you would like to check out the podcast, you can do that. If you missed anything in the first hour, the podcast is available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes. If iTunes still exists, it's there. So you can listen to it. However you do it, podcast, the Two Tell Nuanez podcast, is available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. And if you want to listen live and you're out of the market, maybe it's just easier on your device, your phone, your tablet, whatever it is, listen on the stream. Stream's available at 1029ESPN.com, and it is there thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. Okay, let's try this again with Tom this time. Let's go back to the phones for a Wing It Wednesday. We welcome in Tom to the show. Tom, how are you? I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like Tom is jinxed. You know what I mean, Coulter?
Mm-hmm. I'm not jinxed.
There you are. Well,
That might have to be a rejoin. I'm not jinxed.
That was an amazing entrance onto the show, Tom. Very well done. I hope you're not jinxed. You were certainly ready to go right there. Welcome in. How are you? Are you ready to play a little trivia with us here, Tom?
I'm ready to give her my shot.
Okay. Are you in Western Montana? Are you in Missoula? Where are you calling in here from?
I'm in Missoula, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Are you in and out of the rain today? I mean, it's a little drizzly, isn't it?
It is. As long as it gets over by tomorrow, I'm hoping to get some golf in tomorrow. So.
Okay, that's my guy right there. A little of that late season golf. I'll tell you what, September, October, very underrated golf months in Montana, as far as I'm concerned.
I always hope to play on my birthday, which is the end of October. So
there you go. There you go. Walk right off the course and start collecting candy from the houses. Right, that's the way to go. All right, Tom, here we go. 3 questions for you. If you get 2 of them, you got yourself a basket of wings to the Desperado. If you get all 3, you're going to get yourself a shirt as well. If you need help on any one of these, I am your lifeline, all right?
All right. Sounds good.
Boys, some chicken wings would really hit the spot.
Tommy likey. Tommy want wingy.
All right, Tom, you and I are both very much in the dark on what Coulter's trying to pull off here and when it comes to trivia questions, and I have a very bad omen about this. But anyway, we'll see what we can do. Here we go. Question number 1, Coulter, what do we got?
Well, Tom, if you were listening to the first hour of the show, the first set of trivia questions, there was a reference to last year, and we were just laughing about how we can remember things. If you give me who won the Super Bowl 10 years ago, I can get to the answer pretty quick, but who won the Super Bowl last year might be even harder. Who even played in the Super Bowl last year? It's hard to remember the most recent things. So my questions are all about statistical leaders in the NFL from one season ago.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
So here you go. Number 1, who led the league in passing yards last year with 5,129?
I think that was Drew Brees.
What do you think?
I'm going to go with Drew Brees.
Drew Brees, a very good guess. Coulter? Yeah. Is it Drew Brees?
It is not Drew Brees.
Okay, hold on. Now put a bookmark in it. Okay. All right, go ahead. Question number 2. We'll come back to that one, okay, Tom?
Okay.
Just hold tight.
Yep,
there.
we will come back. We will circle back around. Okay, number 2, who led the league in rushing yards last year with 1,434?
All right, we'll go with the lifeline on this one. My guess is kind of girly, but
so there's only 3. Actually, there's 4 possible answers here. I think it's Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, and Saquon Barkley are your 4 options. I think it's probably not Alvin Kamara because a lot of what he does is on passes and screens and stuff like that. So yeah. I think he made his hay as an all-purpose back in terms of his total yardage. I love the Todd Gurley thing, although he kind of hit a roadblock there the last couple of weeks. Honestly, I would say it was either Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley, even as just a rookie. It was probably Ezekiel Elliott. That is where I would probably go with you on this, and not 100% confidence, but I would put it on Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Ezekiel as well.
Ezekiel Elliott, good use of the lifeline. Yep,
good.
Saquon Barkley. Ezekiel Elliott, 1,434, a full 127 yards more than Saquon Barkley, and a full almost 200 yards more than Todd Gurley.
Was Todd Gurley 3rd?
Todd Gurley was 3rd. Joe Mixon 4th. Chris Carson 5th.
Who 4th?
Joe Mixon.
Okay, just so we're clear.
Christian McCaffrey 5th, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey 6th, Derrick Henry 7th. Adrian Peterson, 8th in the league in rushing in season number 14.
He went over 1,000 yards, didn't he?
That is impressive right there.
All right, Ezekiel Elliott, you got one in the bank. There you go. Okay, question number 3 for you. Here we go. Let's see
All
what we
right,
got.
you knew this one was coming. Who led the NFL in receiving yards in 2018 with 1,677?
I thought it was going to be net punting. I thought it was going to be net punting is what you were going to do. Sorry, I cut you off. In receiving, what was the total?
1,677 yards.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That is a big number. 1,600, huh? Boy.
I mean, you got a handful of options, right? I mean, it's like DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams. Probably not Devontae Adams, especially last year. I don't think it's anybody from the Chiefs, probably. Antonio Brown, but I'm sure that he didn't lead the league last year.
No. I'm going to have to go with Thomas, I believe.
He loves the Saints.
Yeah.
Coulter?
Michael Thomas, 6th.
6th?
In the league.
Get out of here. He's a PPR guy, not so much a yards guy. Have we named the person?
You named him, yes.
Okay.
Ryan did. I'll give you a hint. He scored a long touchdown on Sunday Night Football.
This Sunday Night Football, or last year's Sunday Night Football?
No, this Sunday.
Oh, this Sunday?
Yep.
Then it must have been Julio Jones then, huh?
Julio Jones, 1,677.
Yeah.
That's amazing because he led the league in yards, but didn't he only score 3 touchdowns last year?
That would be the knock on Julio.
Well, that would be the knock on Matt Ryan and Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, Julio Jones.
Exactly.
Julio Jones had 8 touchdowns a year ago. He's caught 3 already this year.
All right.
Julio Jones only 1 double-digit touchdown season. Let's give him one more crack at number 1. I'll tell you. I'll give you 2 hints. Number 1, Drew Brees was not even in the top 10 in passing yards in the NFL last year. He was not.
Stunning.
First time in his career, because you got a bunch of guys like Kirk Cousins throwing for a bunch of yards on terrible teams.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. The guy who led the league in passing yards last year was not the phenom, but rather the old guy, but not the old guy you're thinking of.
So it's not Mahomes.
Not Mahomes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, then it must be Brady then, huh?
Not the old
guy you're thinking of.
Not what?
Not the old guy you're thinking of. It's
the
a
other
different old guy.
A California old guy, perhaps.
California.
No?
Nope.
No.
The only good quarterback to ever come out of the MAC.
Oh, Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger. Dancing. The judge says.
He already got the wide receiver though.
Okay, we're good. He's got some wings.
It's good. He got it. Tom, give your information to the producer in the back. Get yourself some wings from the Desperado on us. All right, enjoy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Very well done. Ben Roethlisberger. How about that, dude? Who saw that coming? Not me. I would have not.
Threw for so many yards, he threw his arm out in game 2 this year.
It would have taken me a long time to get to Ben Roethlisberger on that question. I can't believe that Drew Brees is out of the top 10. That is shocking.
Ben Roethlisberger, Patrick Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Kirk Cousins.
Eli?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, congratulations, Matt Ryan. You threw for the 3rd most yards in the league. Didn't make the playoffs. Congratulations, Eli. You threw for the 9th most yards in the league. You won 2 games. Congratulations, Kirk. You ruined the Vikings.
It's Tutel Nuanez. 102.9 ESPN Radio. That's how we do it on a Wing It Wednesday around here. Yeah, it is an interesting phenomenon that the stat makers are very often are as often not on winning teams as they are on winning teams.
Well, that's why stats are for losers, man, because passing yards is one of the most deceiving stats in the game because if your team is perpetually losing, you're going to throw the ball all the time in the fourth quarter rather than running the ball trying to close the game out.
The Blake Bortles
right
thing, yeah. No, it is true. And I mean
it's why Mike Evans has gone over 1,500 yards for 3 years in a row, because he's on the Bucs and they just start throwing it deep when they're down 3 touchdowns.
All right. Very good. By the way, Jalen Ramsey says he is going to play tomorrow, or is reported that he is going to play. I don't know if he, in fact, said it. Reported that he will play tomorrow for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll see if this will be his last game as a Jag. Are they going to do the color rush uniforms? Jacksonville, Tennessee, you can get some really weird. Some people absolutely hated this. I thought it was the worst uniform ever when the Jags did like the tannish brown, weird, like off gold color rush uniforms instead of like either a green or a black or whatever. Tennessee in that blue, I don't know, man. It can get weird. Tennessee, Jacksonville on a Thursday nighter.
Yeah, the jersey thing needs to get fixed, man. Like in college basketball now, when there's no continuity between the two teams, and like Idaho State and Southern Utah will play, and they'll both wear their darks, and you have like the burnt orange and the red, and it's like you can't even tell the difference between
not being able to tell the difference. And also, when they do like the pink game, there are some uniforms in the NFL that the pink looks so good on.
Yeah,
and then like when a Washington Redskins have that pink on, it is. I mean, from somebody who knows nothing about the Roy G. Biv color wheel or art or color theory or anything, it is unwatched. Like, I can't even stare at them with those things on there. Horrific.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Kind of luck of the draw there at that point, because pink ain't changing. All right. Coulter, excellent work. Appreciate it. We're going to take a break. Coulter is going to be on his way down to Grizz practice, but it's okay. We got our ESPN roundtable with Hellgate head coach Mick Morris around the corner. The Hellgate Knights 2-0 for the first time in 25 years. In fact, yeah, about that. 26 years, I guess, 1995, the last time they were 2-0. We know about the trials and the travails of the Hellgate Knight football team, even to the point of not having a football team, which was, interestingly, Mick Morris' first year as the coach of the football team at Hellgate. And that thing has gotten turned around for a variety of factors, but certainly the head coach being one of those. But an amazing road right now to be 2-0 and headed into homecoming for Hellgate, a spot that 5 years ago you said would have been an impossibility. So we got a chance to sit down with the head coach of the Hellgate Knight football team, Mick Morris. We'll bring that to you right after this.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. We've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up.
Need to relax? Grab a drink and a snack at your Town Pump. Pick up Miller & Coors 12-pack cans, 2 for $20. Mix and match. And Lay's 2XL chips, 2 for $6. Town Pump, there's one just down the road from you.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. With football dominating the news this past week, a pair of in-state female college standouts earned the weekly awards for the Big Sky Conference. Montana soccer standout back Mackenzie Kilpatrick scored Montana's lone goal in a 1-0 victory over Cal Poly in the 80th minute over the weekend. Kilpatrick's first college goal lifted the Grizzlies to their first win of the season. Kilpatrick, who's just a sophomore, also led an effort that ended in a 1-1 tie at Wyoming. It was nearly a win for UM as the Cowgirls scored on a penalty kick in the 90th minute to forge the tie. Montana is at San Francisco on Friday before wrapping up the non-conference slate at St. Mary's on Sunday. The Montana State volleyball team earned 2 victories at the Montana Farmers State Bank Invitational in Missoula over the weekend, led by senior outside hitter Effie Wilson. The Vancouver, Washington product led the Bobcats to a sweep of UTEP and 4-set victory over Cal State Bakersfield to earn Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week. Wilson posted 25 kills and a .358 hit percentage for the weekend. MSU is on a 3-match winning streak, and they open their 2019 home schedule Thursday at Seattle U. Former Montana and Montana State football coach Ty Gregorak will make his broadcasting debut Saturday for Root Sports. After 15 seasons in total between UM and Montana State, Gregorak will be the analyst when Eastern Washington takes on Idaho in Moscow. All right. Time for one of our favorite segments, ESPN Roundtable. The ESPN Roundtable is a long-form interview where we get to delve a little more deeply into the world of sports with a particular subject, an individual. And this week it's Mick Morris, the Hellgate Knights football head coach. It is Tutel Nuanez. It's great to be with you on a Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're well, whatever you're up to this evening. Incubus or otherwise, hope you're having a great day and a great evening ahead. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. 329-1899 is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. It is time for our ESPN Roundtable. It is presented by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls is Missoula's coolest hot spot, and Mick Morris is the subject of this week's ESPN Roundtable. He's heading into his 4th season as the head coach for the Hellgate Knights. But his first season, Hellgate did not even have a varsity football team. They had to forfeit the season due to a lack of players and a lack of participation. And we know the woes of this Hellgate football team that went back decades of 1 or 2 wins in the last 15 to 20 years of football at Hellgate. Well, they're already 2-0 this season. They got their first win in a long, long time. Last year, backed it up with a second win, and this year already 2-0 and off to a great start behind the outstanding quarterback and defensive play of Raleigh Wooster and the head coaching of Mick Morris. So here you go, Mick Morris, on his life as the head coach of the Hellgate Knights. Well, happy to welcome in to the ESPN Roundtable the head coach of the Hellgate Knights football team, Mick Morris. Coach Morris, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Well, you got to be doing pretty well. First of all, it's Hawaiian Day, so here you are in your loafers on the first, actually cold day of the year. So ironic how that worked out. But also, your Hellgate Knights 2-0 and 2 really pretty dominant wins to start the season. Yes, it is 2-0 at this point. There was a bye in the first week of the season. Drew the short straw on that. What did you think about that when you're like, I mean, is it nice to get like an extra week almost of fall camp out of it, or would you have preferred to have a bye later on in the year?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a short straw. We were pretty happy with it, to be honest with you.
Nice.
We were able to start a little bit later than other teams, gave our kids another weekend and stuff, and then we had looked kind of around different states and so on and so forth to maybe look for another game, but nothing really, I didn't think, fit us very well at the time, and so we just took it as a bye, and we're able to kind of take things a little bit slower, which was nice.
That's an interesting fold because sometimes teams now do use the bye. There used to not be a bye in AA. It used to just play 10 games and that was it. But some teams like to play a Coeur d'Alene or Salmon, Idaho, or whatever, somebody close by. What made you decide that you wanted to take the bye, though, and how do you think it helped you guys get prepared for the season?
Yeah, I think that, to be honest with you, we wanted to look for a game that we thought would fit us well. In other words, we wanted to look for a game that would maybe be skewed towards us, maybe having some success, quite honestly. And it was really hard to look for a team that a lot of teams wanted a home and a home. And since it's only a 1-year bye for us, it was difficult to kind of find some schools. And then matching up, I know most of Idaho played in that first week. And so we were kind of left with Washington and we were kind of left with Canada. And we just didn't really find anybody in that position that would suit us very well.
We talk so much about scheduling games at the college level. How does it work on the high school level? Your AD is calling their AD, or how does it work in terms of the scheduling? When you get a home and home, there's no money or anything exchanged, right? It's just kind of just a return trip, right?
Yeah, so we have a 2-year schedule that's kind of set up by our ADs, but there's schedules that have been set for the next 10 years by the athletic directors, and then we obviously with Belgrade coming up and Gallatin High School opening up next year, we had to kind of tweak a few things, and so we went back through last November and kind of came up with it. And the thought process, the AA for a long time has always been a 10-game schedule, but we want to kind of modify that and maybe not have as much football, so we changed it to a 9-game schedule, and then obviously with a playoff game as well. So with Bozeman 2 coming in, it kind of shifted some things from that end, and so we drew them. Literally drew a name out of a hat, and we drew Bozeman 2 as our first game, and so that obviously equated to a bye.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, that's Gallatin, which is the new high school in Bozeman, which hasn't opened yet. So since it's a 2-year schedule, they're going to be in business next year. So they're on the schedule this year, but they turn out to be a bye for everybody that would have played them. So that's kind of how it works with now a 15-team AA group this year with the introduction of Belgrade in there, and then it'll be 16 next year when Gallatin gets on board. You're 2-0 to start the season, and really dominant 2-0, blasting Skyview week 1 and beating Big Sky soundly last week as well in the first crosstown game of the season. 2-0 is always good, especially in a really a short season like the high school season. But when you talk about it in the context of Hellgate, it's remarkable in a lot of ways, and and we'll get into kind of the history of it. But for this year, right now, with where you are, and you got homecoming coming up Friday against Flathead, who has had their struggles this season after going to the state championship game a year ago. What is your outlook and your view about this team for this season, 2019?
Yeah, we've had high expectations, quite honestly, kind of ending last year and coming into this year, and bring back a lot of starters, and a lot of kids have had a lot of experience, and so. It's kind of gone how we've scripted it, to be honest with you. But obviously, we're very happy with how we've played. Like you said, they have been two pretty dominant wins from that standpoint. But we know Flathead's gonna have a good team coming in, and those kids aren't very far removed from playing in a state championship game. And I can't imagine, they're very happy with where they're at. So we're expecting a tough opponent on Friday.
Last year, when Hellgate got their first win in a very, very long time, I mean, it couldn't have been a bigger weight off everybody's shoulders, and you couldn't have had a bigger celebration if it was a state championship than that game. And then you backed it up and won the next week again, and it was exciting, and is the feel-good story of the year, honestly, in high school sports. What is the experience like now when you've gone 2-0? What is the reaction of the kids? Is it I'm sure it's not nearly what it was last year, but is it still so sort of new in a certain way that it's exciting, or is there a certain level of expectation where it's like, hey, it's always great to win, you're going to celebrate a win, but this is what we expect now at Hellgate?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think the biggest thing is that these kids, for the most part, are seniors, and we have a senior class of 27. They went undefeated against AA competition when they were freshmen, so they won, and then a lot of them played JV and had a lot of success there, and so I think last year for just this specific group of kids was kind of an outlier where they didn't have as much success. And so now they're to the point where, they expect to be competitive and they expect to be good. I think that expectation from the school and the community and the outlier is a bit of a surprise. But I really think to our kids, it's what they expect to happen.
Mick Morris, head coach at Missoula Hellgate High School football, joining us on the ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. Mick, Raleigh Wooster dominant in the Big Sky game. I think he had 4 touchdowns before Big Sky even got on the board. He threw a touchdown, ran for 2 more, had a pick 6. You guys are up 28-0, all behind Raleigh scoring. This is a guy that landed on the statewide scene early as a basketball prospect, committed to the Grizz, I think the summer after his freshman year. Decommits this summer. I know he's weighing his football options as well, but he's blossomed into an outstanding football player as well. He's not just a combo guard. The kid can hit, the kid can throw it, he can score. What's it like coaching this kid, and how much has he helped in sort of the resurrection of your program?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think I don't know. I'm of the opinion that I think he's the best football player in the state. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the state. He's probably the best defensive player in the state. And when you combine everything that he does, I don't think you're going to find anybody that probably contributes as much to their team as he does to ours. I think in the first game he had 326 out of our 337 yards of offense. And then, we actually were able to give him a little bit more help. Our running back, he had about $125 against Big Sky, so helped out quite a bit. But, he's phenomenal.
That's how Coulter feels about our show every day. He's like, if I could just get 15 yards out of Tutel, it would be great. It would be great carrying the load for us.
Yeah.
An interesting arc for Raleigh already where he, was on the scene so early as a basketball prospect and is such an outstanding basketball player. But, as he, gave a verbal commitment to the University of Montana and then I'm sort of reading between the lines, but I think, more and more offers start to come in and more people go, well, hey, man, like you're really good at a lot of things. It wouldn't just have to be basketball or wouldn't, you could go, other places and do whatever it is. And so when he's out there now, how much do you help him try and navigate through some of that stuff as a coach, both in terms of, what sport do you love? What sport are you best at? Where's your highest ceiling? Where's the best place for you to go and all of that?
Yeah, I think both myself and Coach Hayes, from the basketball standpoint, talked to him quite a bit about what that looks like, obviously, at the next level. He has a ton of offers that are well-known and some that aren't very well-known. And I think it's been a good process for him to kind of reevaluate that this summer and kind of approach it from, what's best for him, what's best for his family. And I think that, regardless of what he chooses, I think it's a positive experience. And I told him this. I said, not many kids have an opportunity to play college sports. Not very many kids have an opportunity to play Division I college sports. And, hardly any kids have an option to play 2 different sports in Division I. And so that's pretty phenomenal to have that. And I think that, the decision he comes to, and I expect it to be pretty soon here, but I think that decision will be what's best for him and what he feels most comfortable with.
He's so physically mature. What else makes him such a good athlete?
I think he's very cerebral in how he goes about the game, and I think you see it on the basketball court and his decision-making, and he hardly, he never makes a wrong decision, hardly ever. And I think that's really translated to football as well. And he sees things from a bigger picture and angles and those type of things that I think most kids just don't see and most coaches don't understand. And he's just able to do it, and he's so coachable. I can give him a football and say, hey, work on these 3 things over the weekend, and he comes back on Monday, and he's dialed in from that standpoint. And, I think what impresses me the most about him is not only is he the best athlete around, but he also works the hardest. I mean, he works every night till 11 o'clock, and whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's training, he's pretty phenomenal. I wish he would get a little bit more cocky, quite honestly. He's a very humble kid, and I wish he would kind of, be a little bit more arrogant. I think it would help him out in some different situations.
See, the rest of us got the cockiness down, but just not the skill sets.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Kind of an asymmetric deal. As a football coach especially, though, you got, 20 other kids starting on your football team that aren't Raleigh Wooster. And he's the one who's, everybody sees the box score and knows, what they're looking at when they watch him, and his teammates, I'm sure, as well. But as a coach, navigating when you come talk to us, this is the guy that, people want to talk to you about and so forth. But all these kids got to play. Many of them are playing well, and all of them contributing. How do you kind of manage when you have a kid who is so talented, who everybody understands, has these prospects ahead of him, and yet you still got a team that you need to keep cohesive and together and go win some games with.
Yeah, I think it can be a challenge depending on the athlete. Quite honestly, with Raleigh, he's so humble about things, and he's such a good teammate that I don't at least anticipate a lot of issues from that. And I just tell our kids all the time, like, you're lucky to be able to play with a kid like this because, and I tell our coaches that you can go your whole life and not be able to experience what it's like to play with somebody with that caliber or to coach somebody of that caliber. And then even, I sometimes get mad at Raleigh when he's playing because he'll roll out on a pass or something, and instead of just running it like he could, he'll try to fit it in there to his receivers, and he does a really good job of deflecting some of that praise onto his teammates.
Tell us about some of those teammates. Who else has been some guys that have risen to leadership roles and been standouts for you guys so far this year?
Yeah, Brandon Caldonado, who's a kind of a returning two-time All-State player. He's been getting, defensively, had 2 picks. He had a fumble recovery last week for a touchdown. He's been getting a lot of double teams on offense, so he hasn't maybe caught the ball as much as he had in the past. And then Ian Finch is a sophomore kid that's going to have a very, very bright future. He's already got 3 touchdowns. We got a young sophomore running back, Jake Swetland, who really blossomed last week, had 130 yards rushing. And then I think, quite honestly, at least on the offensive side of the ball, our unsung heroes have been our offensive line, who has been incredibly improved over the past. We got 3 seniors up front, Wes Salonen, Dakota Friesen, and Cade Faree that have a lot of them been starting for 3 years. And then we have 2 young sophomores and Tommy Nelson and Lane Cooney that are both about 6'5", about 230. They're going to be studs down the road. And they've really been big contributors on that side of the ball. And then, Thomas Riley's another senior I think he would have been a big-time prospect, quite honestly, but he had been hurt the last couple of years, and it's really the first year he's been healthy, and he's had a good year. And then defensively, I think it's been such a treat this year because Raleigh had 145 tackles last year out of that kind of hybrid safety position. And, a lot of times he had those tackles because he was the only guy there. And so far this year, he's not our leading tackler. A kid by the name of Ryan Wolstad who's a safety, who's been able to come downhill, and it hasn't all been on Raleigh's shoulders to do that. And I think that our defensive line has been phenomenal, and our linebackers are flying around, and our DBs, who kind of I've given them a bad rap the last couple of years of being soft, have really stepped up and come downhill and been physical.
Mick Morris joining us, the head coach of the Hellgate Knights football team on the ESPN Roundtable. Coach, let's talk a little bit about the history of Hellgate and your history in the game of football. You coached at Conrad, and then spent some time in Idaho, Meridian, right?
I was in Nampa.
Oh, Nampa. Okay, well, come on now.
Yeah, that's close.
I mean, they're close except for their rivals, and now I've stepped in it. So standard. But what was it about playing for you where then you said I'd like to get into coaching, and you've made you're teaching social studies as well, at Hellgate and so forth, but where you're like, this is a lot of time and a lot of effort and sometimes some stress and all kinds of things to be a coach of a high school varsity team, especially a football team. What is it for you that you said this is something that I want to do?
I've always loved athletics. Obviously, since I was a little kid, it's been an important part of my life. Growing up with my father and my brother and going to those things and. I understand and appreciate, obviously, the impact that it has on kids, and that obviously I think plays as big of a role as almost anything in a kid's life. The ability to be a part of something, the ability to be a part of a team, and the things that you learn from it. And so, when I was in college, I just always had a passion for athletics, and I thought, what's the one way I can be around it the rest of my life? I wasn't good enough in my own right to probably play as long as a lot of people, and so it's one of the ways to do that was to get involved in coaching, and so, that was an easy transition because with teaching, and so that's kind of why I got into it, to be honest with you.
How long did you live in Butte?
I grew up there. So
did you go to high school there?
Yeah.
Which high school did you go to?
Butte High, of course.
Okay, so you're a Bulldog. Well, so I have deep family ties in Butte, too, and anybody that knows the history of Butte knows that the history of Butte is incredibly rich across the board. But in terms of football and football coaching, I mean, it is the coaching cradle of Montana. You look at both Montana State, they've had so many guys that have come from certain coaching trees, and guys like Jim Sweeney and Sonny Lubick and Sonny Holland and legends in the coaching business. Who are some of your influences from your Butte days in terms of transitioning into the coaching world?
Yeah, I kind of grew up in a time, obviously, that Butte was kind of at the tail end, and so I was 10 years old when Butte High won their last state championship in '91, and so watching kids like Josh Paffhausen and that fly around on the football field, I don't think there was a kid in Butte that didn't want to grow up and be Paffer. And then we kind of went through a tough phase, quite honestly, when I was in high school, coming up, and then Steve Schulte started my sophomore year, and I thought brought along a really good coaching staff. I was more of a defensive player, and so the coaches that had a big impact on me was Brett Huntsman and Shane Henderson. Brett was our defense coordinator. Shane was my DB coach, and Jim Conan and a lot of those guys on the defensive side of ball that came from kind of coaching at Tech and came down, and and then over the years have gotten to know Mick Delaney and Mick Dennehy pretty well and stuff, and so. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names that obviously through the history of Butte that have had success.
Mick, when you decided to come be the head coach for Hellgate, Hellgate was in a stretch that was as bad as it gets. I mean, the phase of Butte maybe is not comparable to the decade of not winning a football game and really being blown out for the most part, which is just got to be a demoralizing thing for the kids, and a lot of the kids came and worked hard, but then seemed like maybe resources and interest from the top down wasn't really there in the football program, even to the point where there was not a varsity football team your first year really of being the coach. You knew all this. You understood what Hellgate football was or wasn't. What made you, first of all, want to take that job and go to work and try and do that? And two, what made you believe that you could get to this point in really not that long of a stretch that you're already 2-0 in what is your fourth season, but really only the third season of football being back at Hellgate?
Yeah, I think there was a few different factors. One was, I went to college in Missoula. I loved being in Missoula. My brother and sister were living here at the time, and so that was the big thing was the city of Missoula trying to get back to it. And then obviously when Hellgate opened up, being that, they'd come off, forfeiting 3 games. They were down to about 15 kids. It looked pretty dire. And so I did my homework, and Jeff Hayes, who's our basketball coach, was the athletic director at the time, and reached out to him and talked to him about what's kind of going on, and, understood that there was going to be some major changes from administration, athletic director. He was in charge of that, and so that was kind of the first step.
Jeff was in charge of that, of trying to find the people.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. Jeff hired me, so
okay.
He was the athletic director at the time, and so him and I had a lot of conversations. And one of the things, quite honestly, I said early on is I can't do this and be successful if you're not on board. Hellgate's obviously always been traditionally a basketball school, and I think that traditionally there wasn't a lot of football players that had played or a lot of basketball players that had played football. And so he said, I'm on board. I'm here to support you, not only as an athletic director, but obviously as a basketball coach. And so that was a big thing, quite honestly. And then, talked with some of the MYF coaches about what Hellgate possibly had coming. Obviously, knew Raleigh was coming. That obviously helped a lot of things. I mean, even as an 8th grader, we knew what he was his talent. And then a gentleman by the name of Brian Salonen, who's
we know BS around here.
Who's
love Brian.
Who's on my staff now, but he was kind of the coach of the kids coming to Hellgate, and so I talked with him quite a bit and said, there's a good group coming, and then you mix that with obviously the changes with the new principal, new vice principals, kind of a commitment to football, which hadn't always been there at Hellgate, and obviously I didn't know how it would go, but I think I wanted the challenge. Maybe the egotistical side of me wanted to see what you can do, right? You always want to challenge yourself, and thought, what the heck, let's give it a shot. So. Yeah, so far it's turned out pretty well.
Shameless plug for Brian Salone and Nick Tabor and the boys down at Westpac Wealth. Missoula Hellgate is having their first inaugural Hall of Fame induction on Saturday at Karis Park. You can go online, Missoula Hellgate website, get tickets. But those guys are sponsoring an ad campaign for the Hall of Fame to get people out there, and I think that's really cool for them. But we've talked a lot with Brian about just the perils of Hellgate football, and for other guys too, Zach Peavy, who played for the Grizz, and several people that have been involved in Hellgate football. And one thing you always heard was it was kind of this never-ending cycle. Hellgate doesn't have a winning football tradition, so how do you get kids to want to come out to play football if they know that not only are we going to maybe not have a team or likely be the definitive underdog in every game, but who wants to go get beat 45-0? No one, right? How did you guys remedy that? Because you have to get the kids out to play to get back on track. How did you guys do it?
I think the big thing, obviously, was just that kind of relationship side of things. One of my first goals, obviously, was to get as many teachers in our building coaching football that are seeing those kids on a daily basis. And there was a lot of coaches that were at Hellgate at the time, former coaches, former head coaches, so on and so forth, that were still working there but weren't involved with the program. And, teachers, quite honestly, are kind of the lifeline of your program because they're in there every day. They're seeing the kids every day. And then, obviously, getting other coaches and other sports on board as well because we have great athletes at Hellgate traditionally. I mean, basketball's good and, track's been good and soccer and cross country. And so it's not, it wasn't that the whole athletic program at Hellgate was bad. Football was, quite honestly, was the outlier. So you knew there was some potential there. And so, we got a lot of people on board. I think we have 8 members of our staff are also teachers in our school. We got a lot of former Hellgate alums like Zach Peavy was a part of it, and Luke Bewley and Bob Shank and Ryan Hamilton and kids that had played at Hellgate and they're back coaching here now and that have a pride in Hellgate and wanted to get it good. And then, quite honestly, having the support of the administration in terms of getting weightlifting classes and promoting it from that end, and it's really been a total team effort.
When you look to the future here, both this season and down the road, what do you see for Hellgate football? And you're in a good spot right now. The schedule's going to just get harder from here as you go through the year. But what are your aspirations for the team and for the school? We kind of had three goals this season. Quite honestly, one was to win a city championship, and we're halfway there. One was to host a playoff game, so that means we're a top 4 seed in the West, and then. Our last goal was to win a playoff game, which hasn't been done since '94. And so those were our 3 goals. I think, we're at where we want to be right now. We're halfway to that city championship, obviously. We got Sentinel left, and they're undefeated, tough team traditionally. And obviously we have a lot of the Blue Bloods left, the Helena Highs and the Helena Capitals. And Butte's got a solid team this year, and Glacier and Flathead. So we know it's going to be a heck of a challenge going forward. We like where we're at. Kind of moving down the road, I think it's going to be a challenge. I think, we have a really good senior class, and they've done a good job of kind of putting Hellgate back on the map. So it's really going to fall to those younger kids and what they want to do. And football is a declining enrollment around everywhere, and I think it's just going to be a battle. But I think we're in a much better place to tackle it than we had been in the past.
You mentioned that 1994 season. There's a great article in the Missoulian last week by Kyle Hansen about. When Big Sky played Hellgate 25 years ago in the state championship. I think that was the last time a Missoula schools played in the state championship, the last time a Missoula schools won a state championship. It's crazy to think about considering the epicenter of football that Missoula is with the Grizz and all the success they've had in that 25-year span. But I know that, your kids were not even alive when that was happening. But do you find any element of faith in that, being that it has been done before? Do you guys ever look to the past and say, hey, it's not impossible at Hellgate?
Yeah, I think so, and it's one of those things that I don't, with how much Missoula supports the Grizz and how much they're kind of crazy about Grizz football. I've always found it interesting that it hasn't really translated to high school, and right. I don't know I wish I had an answer to you. I think part of it is that the 3 Missoula high schools are the 3 smallest schools in the state, but that obviously there's schools like Helena Capital that are small and Butte that are small that have won state championships and. I don't know exactly why that's the case, but I do know that there's been a lot of talent that's come through Missoula in the last couple of years. And, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, Big Sky made a semifinal game. Sentinel made a semifinal game. And you never know. I think that it is turning a little bit. And it's becoming, to the point where, you don't really necessarily know who's going to be great every year. Back, in the late 90s and early 2000s, you knew it was going to be Capital. You knew it was going to be West. You knew it was going to be CMR. You knew it was going to be those schools, and you look recently, you have Glacier and Billings Senior, who traditionally wasn't very good, and Coach Murdoch comes in and has really turned that program around. You look at CMR, they're not where they used to be, and Capitals, obviously they have a heck of a team this year, but I think there's a lot more parity, and so I think there's definitely some more hope for us out there.
Well, Mick, I'll tell you what, we certainly appreciate you coming in, being a part of this, and congratulations already on what you've accomplished and the way you have turned that program around, and not just you, I know, with the kids and the coaches, administrators, teachers, all of that, but it's fantastic to have Hellgate back, have them be not just competing but winning football games, and we wish you the absolute best the rest of this season and going forward.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
There you go. Mick Morris, the subject of this week's ESPN Roundtable. Certainly appreciate his time and great stuff from him. Just kind of getting a better picture of kind of all that's gone into turning the program around there at Hellgate. And again, homecoming this Friday for the Hellgate Knights against Kalispell Flathead. The ESPN Roundtable is presented by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls is at 3621 Brook Street in Missoula. It's there on the south end of town near the intersection of South Reserve and Brooks. Great spot. It's been there for a long, long time. You know where Paradise Falls is, but if you haven't been in or if you haven't been in a while, you might be ready for a new visit. They've updated their menu. They got 18 rotating beer tap handles, 30 televisions, all with ESPN3 capabilities. So if you're into maybe some smaller time football, maybe some national FCS stuff that you can't get everywhere, they can get it for you there. You can watch on the screens. Inside, multiple rooms. There's a gazebo with glass so you can look outside. And for those nice fall days, you get the last rays of sun. They even have a patio you can sit out on as well. Paradise Falls is online at paradisefallsmissoula.com. Again, 3621 Brook Street. Paradise Falls is Missoula's coolest hot spot. We'll come back, wrap up the show, get ourselves ready for some music next.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain, they still need to get to work, they need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
School buses are taking to the roads, and they mean something very important. That is, bus drivers, educators, and parents doing their part to get children to and from school safely. Montana motorists share the responsibility to Montana's kids. Be aware this school year, you are sharing the road with our future. Flashing yellow lights alert drivers that the bus is preparing to stop. Flashing red lights means stop. Children are getting on or off the bus. Watch the lights and obey the signals to help keep our community safe for kids. This school safety reminder was brought to you by the Montana School Bus Contractors Association and this station.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
It's Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Yes, it is a very good day. It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television High. How are you? Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, you can listen on the podcast. The podcast available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. And it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Speaking of the podcast, I want to tune you into a couple of things here. We are now on Instagram, Lord have mercy, at 1029ESPN, the Instagram handle, at 1029ESPN. We'll be posting some pictures there, get you some stories. I understand they're telling stories on Instagram now, so we'll see what we can do on that. As always, at 1029ESPN, at Skyline Sports MT, and at Gus Tutel on Twitter. And also, we're going to be doing quite a bit of stuff on the podcast side of thing here coming up soon. So I want you to kind of pay attention to that. We're going to have some more content, additional stuff going up on the podcast. So we want to get you as much as we can get you, you know? So we'll just want to dangle that out there in front of you for you to get ready for you to listen to. Hey, I had a friend of mine text me, and we were talking off the top of the show about who is this week bigger for Montana or Montana State in terms of the fourth and final week and sort of the extra week of non-conference football. And in the case of Montana State, playing two teams that they are overwhelming favorites against, and games that they're expected to win and win pretty handily. And Coulter and I both maintain that Montana State, this is more important for them. One, because they have a freshman quarterback who's going to be making his fourth ever start and just needs to get the reps, and so this benefits him, or presumably could benefit Casey Bauman from Montana State. And also because of the injuries that Montana State has had to deal with and is dealing with, especially Mochi Filer, Isaiah Fonse, and Troy Anderson being limited. But the text I got, Montana never talks about the injuries that they have. And so you never know what kids are going through, what they're dealing with, what they're, and how much this week might actually benefit Montana from the injury standpoint as well. And I think that point is very well taken. Montana State's injuries are far more obvious because they're two top players, RB1 and cornerback 1, and because those guys are out. That said, you take a guy like Jesse Sims. I thought for all the world like Jesse Sims was going to be out for some time when he was injured and went down week 1, did not return in that game. And we have no idea what he's fighting through or might be fighting through in his, upper arm, shoulder area from that. Now, he's played great the last 2 games, and he doesn't because he doesn't seem to be suffering any ill effects when you watch him play on Saturday, certainly doesn't mean that maybe he isn't in some pain. And there's no question that there's plenty of guys who have been hurt, injured, bruised, twisted ankle, whatever it is, and that a week like this can benefit everybody. And I think that Montana certainly will benefit from that aspect of this as well. But you combine the fact that it's hard to cover up a guy when he's in fact not suited for the game and is out of it, which Montana State has more of than does Montana, and also the fact that it's not like Montana State gets on the mountaintop and starts announcing this stuff, but it's Fort Knox when you're talking about injuries at the University of Montana, right? Do not talk about injuries, period, end of story, from Bobby Houken. That is the directive for the entire rest of the staff, the kids, and all the way around. So understand that, and here's the deal. It's a great week for both teams as far as I'm concerned. This is a big, big week to get better and to get the ball rolling, get the momentum going, headed into conference play a week from Saturday. All right, boys and girls, there you go. Yes, you've chosen wisely in the back. Incubus, Kettle House Amphitheater. I'm told there's still tickets to this, which I find asinine. That might not be true. I don't know. But if that is, you should go. It's going to be a great show. Can't wait for it. Boys and girls, enjoy your evening wherever you are, whatever you're up to. If you're going to be out there in Bonner with me, can't wait to see you there. Can't wait to see the show. It's going to be a great time. Have a wonderful evening.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Footballs are flying, the elk are bugling, and everyone is talking about pumpkin. Here at Florence Coffee, we take pumpkin serious with our real pumpkin lattes, chais, and frappes, made with real pumpkin that is sure to delight the senses. Also, try our all-natural pumpkin spice flavoring, made from real spices and extracts. So when you get a craving for something pumpkin, be sure to stop by your nearest Florence Coffee.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Jayco and Rangish Brothers end-of-the-year clearance event is going on now. Our entire lot is on sale, so if you've been waiting for a smoking hot deal on fifth wheels, campers, toy haulers, and motorhomes, there is no better time to buy than now. Save big on a Jayco J-Flight Bunkhouse SLX with payments as low as $99 per month OAC. Or get huge savings on a 2019 Jayco Eagle fifth wheel, starting at only $28,750. Don't miss our final sales event of the year. Only where a handshake means something. Rangish Brothers RV Center.
Soft Landing Missoula, along with sponsors Imagination Brewing Company and Sweet Peaks Ice Cream, is hosting Missoula's 3rd annual Welcoming Week. In tandem with thousands of other organizations and communities nationwide, Soft Landing hopes to inspire and celebrate welcoming all people to the Missoula community. Highlights of this year's week will include an Eritrean coffee ceremony, an international soccer match, and a Middle Eastern dessert pop-up sale. For more info and a full calendar of events, please visit softlandingmissoula.org. Soft Landing Missoula, along with sponsors Imagination Brewing Company and Sweet Peaks Ice Cream, is hosting Missoula's 3rd annual Welcoming Week. In tandem with thousands of other organizations and communities nationwide, Soft Landing hopes to inspire and celebrate welcoming all people to the Missoula community. Highlights of this year's week will include an Eritrean coffee ceremony, an international soccer match, and a Middle Eastern dessert pop-up sale. For more info and a full calendar of events, please visit softlandingmissoula.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.